All right, welcome back. It's now time for us to get into the viewpoint, being the Wednesday. This is how we do it. Welcome to the program. My name is Victor Oloo. Please talk to me and all of us here at KBC, that is at KBC Channel 1 at Victor Oloo. Okay, so my guest already in studio. Today is the 12th day of November. If you just joined us, let's talk about matters, socio-economic issues that's affecting us in the country and how we need to resolve all of them. Okay. I have Wilson Sossion, who is a veteran unionist. He's also an educator. He's here. He's a former member of parliament and also former nominated member of parliament and former. Your short is on air, Mheshimiwa. You're being introduced. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there you go. Again, can I take that again, Director? Yes, he's here. Wilson Sossion is a former NASEC Gen. He's a veteran unionist. I love that smile. Veteran unionist and educator. He's here on set. Mheshimiwa, good to see you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah. And Mike Ogwanda is a political analyst. He's also a man of many hats. He's going to tell us one by one how many hats he has today. Mike, good morning.
Good morning.
I call him Mickey Mouse. All right. Karibu sana, gentlemen. Let me still extend my the apology from Dr. James Nikal, Member of Parliament of Seme constituency. He called and said he has got an urgent meeting at 7 a.m. So, Mheshimiwa, apology accepted. All right, so let's take it from where we should. Let me start with the front page of the local dailies. Gentlemen, as always, on the front page of the Star, Museveni threatens war with Kenya over Indian Ocean. That is also on the front page of the Star newspaper. Museveni threatens war with Kenya over Indian Ocean. And he says that Ethiopia locked in conflict with Somalia over a similar dispute. That story is on the front page and fleshed out there for you. Continues on page 4 and page 5 if you want to go read in details. Of course, there's another story about Shah cancer cover-runs dry within 6 months, and patients now protest to MPs over that. There is something people would call a pilgrimage to Bondo, where mourners and people from all over, including Uganda, still trooping to Kangoka Jaramogi to mourn the late Prime Minister Raila Odinga. And yesterday, Gor Mahia fans also trooped there. And as usual, they were there in their full regalia, as you can imagine. Of course, just to condole with the family. That is what's on the front page of the Star newspaper. Mheshimiwa Sossion, what do you have on the front page of the Daily Nation? Can you read for us?
Kenya strikes gold. 680 billion gold.
All right, continue. Just give us more details of that.
On the same?
Yes.
That the residents of Isulu and Bushangala in Kalamani, Kakamega County are on the verge of a windfall. A British firm has revealed massive gold deposits in the area and is now seeking clearance to mine the precious metal in Avenger. That promises a fortune for the investor, country, county, and local communities.
Okay. I'm told Ikolomani was coined from the word gold mine.
Yes.
I don't know how true that is. Ikolomani, gold mine. So now
like Isukuti. You know, when the drums were done.
Yes, it is good.
The Musungu said, oh, it's good.
It's good.
Then
it came to Isukuti.
Then the African said, it is called Isukuti.
What about Dagoretti Corner? Do you know where the name Dagoretti Corner came from, Mike?
No.
Muzungu said the great corner. This is a great corner. And here we are, Dagoretti Corner.
Yes.
All right. Okay, what do you have on the front page of the Standard, Mike?
The front page of the Standard says, see here no evil. And the acting CEO of Teacher Service Commission, photo is right there. And it says, Kenya's largest employer of educators, the Teacher Service Commission, stands accused of turning the country's classroom into cash cows for corrupt officials. The collusion of failed officers to those at the headquarters reeks from job bribes and politicized recruitment to ethnic favoritism and stalled promotions. An EACC report paints a damning picture of rot and dysfunction inside the very body meant to safeguard teachers' welfare. As technology fails, morale plummets, and unions cry foul, the question lingers, who will teach integrity when tutors are themselves under siege.
Take it away. That headline sounds so loud.
You know, I run a school, and it's a day and boarding school. That is something I've done for years now, and quite a successful school for that reason. When I read this kind of things, and first of all, I'm looking at the acting CEO of our Teacher Service Commission. I'm saying, she's here at a bad time. This is not even where we needed to begin from. Mrs. Macharia, who has been the CEO for many, many years, perhaps needed to answer these questions. Because if you're looking at the history of, just system rot in TSC, then we cannot point at anybody else other than Macharia herself, who now is retired. But then you ask yourself, how long has it taken us to get into this place? Recently, in a UDA government, I saw, for the first time in the history of this country, application forms literally being given to politicians, members of parliament. And they were going, and specifically I saw it in Rift Valley, members of parliament having application forms and announcing it in funerals, that if you want to be a teacher, come here, and then we give you the form to fill, and then you become the teacher that you want to be, or rather you get posted.
Yeah.
It was probably the lowest moment of the career, the teaching profession in this country, that many people who have been qualified for sometimes 5, 10 years and 12 years are still waiting to be absorbed within TSC. But you find a politician running around with application forms, and then when he gets some few in that funeral, he tells them right here, and they get employed immediately. While many people who genuinely deserve, who have been waiting in the queue for 10, 15 years have not been employed, but because you're connected to a politician, you get employed almost immediately, some of them after coming from college. And we're having this discussion with one of the teachers who were my friend, who waited for 10 years. And then his colleague, who is hardly a year into the profession after college, and is already employed, and they're teaching with him, with her in the same place. When did we start hawking, employment? While teaching fraternity or profession in itself has been the most adorable profession we could ever imagine of in terms of respect, integrity, dignity, and also passing knowledge to our student. When we are describing TSC as a cash cow for the teachers, that you cannot get a transfer, perhaps if you not grease the palm of provincial or regional education officer or regional director or sub-county director, you can't get a promotion if you don't know somebody. And what the people are saying on the ground is totally different from what TSC in Upper Hill is saying, because it could be a conflict. The question is, yes, we might have had the union coming out, and Sossion is here, perhaps he will explain better, condemning some of these things. But why have we waited for too long for ESCC to come in and say, yes, this is now one of the most corrupt organizations in this country? And the question, I like what this journalist says, who will teach integrity when tutors are themselves under siege? And part of that very, very corruption that they want to teach their children against in the classroom. It is unfortunate that teaching fraternity is now offering positions at TSC for the highest bidder. A teaching fraternity has now realized that they can also cash in the teachers who want promotion. That teaching fraternity is now realizing that if you want to transfer, you must grease somebody's palm. And no wonder you realize a lot of these cases where now we are having depression, we are having mental challenges among teachers, we are having teachers who are into serious drinking, and it's because of some of this frustration that we are seeing here. I mean, when and how long do we have to wait for Macharia to be in that office for all those years? And then we still found it fine because she was able also to compromise the union. She was able to compromise the investigation officers. She was able to compromise the powerful people in the government. She was completely untouchable when she's been here. And so this lady's face is up there, and we're looking at her and we think she's the devil that we need to talk about, while Macharia should be the person we are condemning in all these things because Macharia has been here this long. But the question that you're asking yourself is, when she reigned on Teacher Service Commission and brought all this corruption, was the government looking on the other side? Was the committee in Parliament of Education looking the other side? Because they knew these things were happening. Yeah. And she was so powerful and she was everywhere. I mean, she did not have respect for the union. She did not have respect for the government and anybody else. Where did she get all these powers for the education to be eroded to this extent? Where now we are saying that the TSC is one of the most corrupt. Now, can only be compared because if you look at the policemen, they say they want the number one in the country every single year that an index comes out. And how do we reverse this thing? Perhaps we need to talk about that. Okay. How do we then reverse this thing? And the only way we can reverse this thing is for people to have anonymous box where they can put names and shame some of those directors and tell, the public that this individual and this individual in TSC are the ones that have been receiving bribes. And then somebody else handles it in TSC, in EACC. And then we can find solutions. But it should not continue.
Absolutely. But having a box, is that enough? Because you'll have an opinion box there, but will that be enough? Mheshimiwa Sossion, this is not something we've talked about here. We've talked about it here over and over and over and again. And most of the time, it finds you over there. I want us to talk about the issue to do with administrative and systematic failures when it comes to whatever we're discussing. I remember 2 weeks ago when you came on the show and we talked about the issue to do with education, you said heads must roll when it comes to education system and university leadership. That was that. But then now, when it's come to TSC and all this happening, what would you say about all this?
I think I was in that space to right the wrongs. And I became the sacrificial lamb for the cartels who were interested in dismantling the professional independence of TSC, which is envisaged under Article 237 of the Constitution. We worked hard. I was part of the leadership. And our aspiration was a very professional teaching force that is accountable to the teachers of Kenya and that has the capacity to retain the most motivated, the most well-supported, and the most productive teachers. That was the mission. But other interests came in. And the report that we're getting now are just but indicators of historical rot that has been very deliberate over time. And I think, Victor, what we may need about TSC is probably a national conference. We discuss the future of teachers and teaching in this country and bring to bear some of those things. We need some revolutionary approach, radical reorientation and reorganization of the Teacher Service Commission. Because look at countries like Korea. They've succeeded because they've retained the best teachers in the teaching system, to the extent that the best students in KCSE in Korea join teaching. So if you're the best, if you come top with A's, you join teaching. Because teaching has been made the first profession and it has attracted the best. And when you're trained as a teacher, you are taken on board immediately after training so that you grow to be a teacher. We've seen the teaching service in this country going south in every respect. And it is time we reclaim it and speak about it very, very boldly. What we need is a happy, motivated, properly recruited, well-supported teacher in every classroom. that is the intention. But if you're making teachers to bribe their way to access their rights, that fundamentally is wrong.
Okay.
So,
beyond the surface, what
so
is really
I don't want to believe that such stories are coming to the headlines, and then in the evening, inafungiwa nyama, and is forgotten. We must get to what has been brought to our attention.
What are the things brought to your attention?
What has been brought to our attention is a report.
Let me just.
And I think it's a report from an agency.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Okay.
And the media has made it a headline, right? So, as a responsible country, we must stop and ask questions.
Okay.
And
one
we must
of
stop
the reports
and find solutions.
Perhaps some of the issues being reported here is rampant corruption, where bribes demanded for jobs, promotions, and transfers, with TSC ranked among Kenya's most graft-ridden institutions. Is it so bad that TSC has to be the most corrupt institution in Kenya when integrity is supposed to be taught in the same institution?
That becomes a paradox because, if an institution that is vested with the responsibility of teacher management, and teachers are supposed to inculcate values, then those values must be embedded in that institution in the first place. And that is why we should have a very strict code of regulations to manage teachers, but also we must have very strict code of ethics for those managing teachers. And those ethics, we don't need to struggle and find them in papers. We should see them working. It should be felt. Everybody in the country should know that TSC is a no-go zone in terms of corruption. It's a transparent system. Things work right. And it is a reflection of the teacher we expect in the classroom. What type of a teacher do you want in class? A teacher with the highest standards of values, committed, and you can give all manner of description. Corruption-free, someone who can affect the child in a positive way in terms of values, characters, and formations. How do you expect such when the institution that manages them places hurdles of corruption that actually is going to transform the character and behavior of teachers, so that eventually you have thuggish activities within the teaching force? It is not right. It's not good for the country. Even when you're talking about leaping to be the first world, the agent of moving to the first world will be education and teachers. You can't do that when there are, of course, negative stigma and issues within the teaching force. We must have the best teaching force in terms of professional capacity, values, and qualifications, and delivery. And that must be reflected at the employers.
I'm looking at the situation where there are certain issues which TSC, is there any point that TSC can have all this to turn around? Because when we talk about teaching as a profession, these are some of the cardinal professions, and actually is a cardinal profession everywhere in the world. Because when you talk about education, you talk about a progressive society. But when you have our very own facing this kind of headline for a second day or so, these are some of the things that it has been discussed over and over and over again, Mike. And we are looking at a situation where we have so many students who are taking the same course. You talked of, when it comes to employment, some people somebody graduated just the other day and he gets into the system and is employed. Some are still outside there for 10 years. How do we turn around the entire system? Because now it means that the entire Teacher Service Commission is going to go down under the bridge.
Victor, that is just one of the roads. Let me tell you, the system of employment is completely abused in this country. we have a system that has been bedridden with a lot of nepotism and tribalism.
Yeah.
When Nancy Macharia was up there, you'll find people being employed in Central Province that are supposed to be occupying spaces in Western, in Central, the larger Central area, that are supposed to be working in Central, in Western part of the country. And then these people don't end up being transferred into the Western part of the country. They still remain this side. And so you find this skewed way of places where there are no teachers, and in places where there are too many teachers. That is one of them. And then another thing that has been happening is that sometimes you also find like directors, regional directors, whether it is county directors, sub-county directors, and also other officials or TSC officials within the county and the sub-county. Unfortunately, what happens in those places is that these people make recommendations, and then after making the recommendations, it is forwarded to Nairobi. Now Nairobi makes the final decision. That final decision is not based on the recommendation that is actually made by the TSC county director or the sub-county director, who knows the schools, who knows the needs of the schools. So when they come to Nairobi, they make the decisions. While in a nutshell, when you want to make a very thorough and a system that is working and that is helping the teachers, it should be that the sub-county report is taken as it is, because these are the people on the ground and they're the eyes of TSC on the ground. And then the director of TSC within that county should be able to make some final conclusion and decisions on which schools and how many teachers need to go into these schools. For example, I have a school in Dewa, where I come from, that the teachers are not there. TSC teachers are only 3 in one of the schools there. And when there were 3, a head teacher who was a TSC teacher was also removed from the school, given a transfer. And so you have a whole school with about just 3 or 2 teachers that are, these kids literally are leaving the schools to other schools. That means the schools are getting closed. But then these reports have been made to TSC Nairobi.
Yeah.
But the TSC Nairobi is still waiting for their sweet time. Instead of employing teachers directly to teach there, they would rather employ teachers in other places. There are so many other teachers that can take care of. The schools, some of the schools are closing in Dewa because of lack of teachers, literally. Lack of teachers. And we cannot allow this to continue because of nepotism and tribalism and because of briberism. That if you don't bribe, you'll rather not, they'd rather have the school close, but still they need the bribe. Why? We must go back to what we had before. That when the sub-county is having a meeting and relevant information has been given to them and is escalated to the county level, and the county director needs to visit some of those through his officers, need to visit some of those schools and then come up with a resolution. That is implemented by TSC Nairobi, not TSC coming back in Nairobi and telling you, oh, we still don't have this, or we're still looking into this, we are still investigating. That is why we have representation of TSC. We must have what we call bottom-up kind of system so that the people representing TSC on the ground are respected and are able to do what they're supposed to do.
It's exactly 7:30 and I want to serve Sossion some coffee.
But before?
I'll be back with that. Stay with us. Okay, we all need that coffee. Welcome back. The 3 of us have their cups of coffee. Gentlemen, let's continue. Sossion, you want to say something before we took a break?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to support his position. The spirit of devolution in governance is very clear. It means take services to the people. Even independent commissions Judicial Service Commission. You can see they're making a lot of efforts to open courts everywhere in the country. Teacher Service Commission also should be able to take crucial services to the counties. Things to do with payrolls and things to do with HR services, things to do with promotions, and even appointments should be done at the counties. And if need be, then all teachers should be able to get their services at the counties. That means there should be thinning of human resource at the headquarters, and you have more personnel at the counties, so that then the services are promptly rendered to the teachers on time. Continued centralization of certain services, because we have seen that. Earlier on, in the previous dispensation, appointment of heads and would be done locally and quickly and fast. But when it is centralized, you create unnecessary bureaucracy, inequality, interference, and absence of transparency, which is an antithesis of the spirit and letter of Kenya Constitution, that of equity and equality and inclusion of all. So matters to do with promotion of teachers should be devolved to the counties and executed at that level. Matters to do with appointment of heads and new positions should actually be devolved to the counties and executed at that level through extensive consultation with stakeholders, so that then, because schools belong to communities and belong to the people, and therefore open and transparent processes that are above board must be executed at that level. Employment and employment of teachers should be completely devolved. Remember, when you look at UNESCO standards, teacher deployment takes into consideration cultural linguistic context because and inclusion of all tribes. While at EI, I was in charge of a problem of ensuring that ethnic minorities all over the world also have their own teachers, because we must create teachers out of ethnic minorities. If you want head teachers, you must also have head teachers out of those ethnic minorities. The inequalities of teacher deployment in this country is basically because of a bad policy. And this had been improved by previous government. If you look at recruitment to teacher training colleges, it was done at the zones on the basis of gender. You give a slot to maybe 3 males and a slot to 3 females, train them at the teacher college, training colleges. Upon graduation, take them back to those zones and deploy them to the schools. That is the UNESCO framework of teacher deployment, of which the president appended the signature to the education charter that reverted Kenya to adopt UNESCO standards of teacher deployment. It is in the education charter.
Does it worry you
and therefore, that's what needs to be done, because education must be offered through equity and everywhere and to all children in a standard manner. What we have seen, the policies that took over at TSC were driven by nepotism, corruption, and self-interest. And it was meant to exclude very many parts of the country and promote interest of certain individuals. Very deliberate, very selfish, very inhuman, and unacceptable. So to me, there is a whole lot of work to do, a lot of surgery in the architecture of TSC and the entire teaching service. And it's not going to be done in a day. It's something that must be done very deliberately, and it's going to take time, because to reverse the damages is not going to be easy. And therefore, we need very deliberate leadership at TSC and support from government so that we can deliver the teaching service from the bondage it was taken.
Okay. Someone is asking, will the Ministry of Education handle education if it's fully devolved, as you're saying, if the health itself kama health wameshindwa? That's the question.
I'm not talking about devolution to the county governments. Devolving services is different from devolution.
Yeah. Okay.
People should understand. The judiciary has devolved services to the grassroots, but it has not devolved this mandate to the county government. I think let's have a different, let's have a clear understanding.
Okay.
Devolution of governance from national to county governments is a different thing. Creation of county governments. But even independent institutions must have presence in the counties to deliver those services. That is what I'm talking about.
I think, where I agree with Mr. Sossion is clear. When it comes to HR reasons, or for example, HR looks into matters of employment, it is matters of discipline, or when you're going on leave, paternity leave, maternity leave, and all those training, and all those capacity building as well. Now, why do we have to come to Nairobi? Why does somebody who is in Suba, for example,
travel all the way to Nairobi
to check whether he's in the payroll or not, and why he's not paid or not? And yet you can do it in Homa Bay or in Kuria, in Migori. I mean, why do you have to compel this teacher who is already, having debts? The guy might be earning just about 5,000 shillings per month because of his debts and some other loans. And then you are telling him, oh, there's a problem with your payroll, and you have to come all the way to Nairobi. The guy has to go into debts again to come to Nairobi. While that could have easily been done in Migori with a HR person in Migori, regularize the payroll, or if it's a discipline matter, take the discipline within the counties. You don't have to bring discipline to Nairobi. I mean, it's the people that you work with there that
could it because of problem. Could it be because of the long-standing system? Because that has that has always been what has been there since.
Norm. That has been the norm until they change and tilted the system so that the people at the headquarters could benefit from the big bribe. Basically, that is what is happening. That is why they have to come to Nairobi to see the big boss. Because the small boss there was doing all these things and the system was running very, very well. Let's create some stampede. Let's create some importance in Nairobi, Upper Hill, and so that we are the big people. And if you can't see us, then you don't know that teachers are coming to Nairobi and sleeping on the park because they cannot afford to go to hotels. It's happening.
So, do you need to come to Nairobi to appoint and deploy a head teacher of a school?
You don't.
Do you? It has happened in the past that even head teachers were appointed at the zonal at the zonal offices. Well, why is it that during this era of devolution, you must bring all of them to Nairobi? There must be interest of commercial interest.
That is the question.
In the name of
perhaps that's the norm, as Mike would say it.
And that is, it is weak thinking and it is selfish interest, because the devolution and the new constitution should have taken services closer to the people at the grassroots. You don't need to execute many of the transfers teachers at the Teacher Service Commission headquarters. It can be done at the counties. Maybe the transfers that ought to be executed and appointments at the headquarters should be as related to national schools.
Mike has a problem. William, I'm sorry. Somebody's going to handle it. Apology for that. I'll come back to you. Also, so Mike, the question I want to ask you, then there should be some serious surgery. One of them is you're talking about the issue of delocalization, which you said is quite recommendable. But then the question of... Sorry?
Delocalization was an abuse of the teaching process.
Was it?
Yes.
Okay, you'll explain that to us. I stand corrected. I stand corrected. Thank you. But then the question of some serious surgery to give TSC a different face altogether, because now it seems that the TSC is on some serious test.
No, TSC is becoming a bigger-than-life organization. it's no longer serving the interests of the teachers, but they're serving the interests of individuals that are working at the helm of TSC. What needs to happen, Victor, is this, that the committee, the education committee in Parliament must reign on TSC. You know, Nassim Macharia, the retired lady, for many, many years refused to promote, refused to hire for many, many years. And yet there was money. I remember she appeared before the committee in Parliament and I said, but we've given you the money. Why are you not promoting? Why are you not employing? And it was a terrible rebut from her that we saw, because she was just sitting on this money and did not care about the teachers at all. What needs to happen is members of Parliament need to reign on TSC. And they need to reverse some of these hardcore, kind of policies that TSC made for them to be bigger than life. For example, it's talked about previously.
Okay, in a bullet form, the surgery that should be done completely deconstruct TSC and give it a new face.
One of the things that must happen is let services be done within the county. That must be done. Let no TSC make decisions on which school needs to get which teachers and how many teachers. Let the county do it. And the sub-county do it. Promotions need to be done within the sub-counties. And the counties, they need to decide who is being promoted, because they're the people who are with these teachers every single day.
Because of their performance.
Okay? They are the ones who know, the strong ones, they're the ones who know the malingering ones, they're the ones who know the ones that are not working, and they're the ones who know which one need to be promoted. Thirdly, employment needs to be localized. It needs to be regionalized. It needs to be county-wise. Why do we have people to be employed by TSC in Nairobi while they do not know the needs that are in these other places? We're talking about issues now with education, and I know we're going to come into it, where the government Minister of Education is saying, oh, this is the numbers we have are conflicting with the numbers that are in school. And you can see that it's all systemic in the sense that they know what is happening. Now the teachers are saying, look, you're the ones who are adding figures when you're in Nairobi. As we give you the real figures, them they are saying, oh, you're the ones who are manipulating the figures. This is exactly what is happening with the TSC. TSC are alleging that they're making employment for their whole country. But there are places where there are over surplus of teachers in this country. Why can't we have the counties employ according to their needs, according to their schools, instead of coming to TSC to do this? Again, we can have some little leeway when it comes to the localization of head teachers. Now, head teachers could be transferred anywhere. I don't mind about that. But how about these, promotions and these transfers and this discipline to be done within the county and sub-county levels, so that services are done quickly? How about if they transfer the HR officers to the counties, so that these people don't have to come to Nairobi? How about if they transfer the discipline aspect of it to the counties, so that these people don't have to come to Nairobi? I have a friend of mine who has not been on duty for 7 years because he's been coming to TSC, and every time he comes to TSC on discipline matter, every time he comes to TSC, oh, there's something that is happening, you need to come back again. 7 years the guy has not gone back to class. I mean, this kind of things must be stopped. But the only person that can help us here is Parliament, so that TSC do not make the rules according to the TSC CEO. Because when she comes with her own rules, or he comes with her own rules, teachers are still going to suffer. Let Parliament make serious policy on hiring, on promotion, on HR, on devolving some of the services over to their county levels, so that teachers can get the services they need, including the training.
Let's talk about the administrative burden that perhaps TSC is facing, because the Commission, for quite some time, somebody would say that have been accused of collecting more data instead of taking action to rectify some of these problems that's facing the Teacher Service Commission and the teaching fraternity.
You know, the concept was driven by selfish interest. And when the concept of selfish interest drives conceptions of policy, you end up with bad policies, and you end up with bad programs, which hurt the teaching service. TSC never needed to discard almost all the practices that they've done over the years. They only needed to improve and devolve them to the counties, those services. TSC, in the concept of independence, interpreted independence to be authoritarian and draconian way of doing things, and recalling all the services from the grassroots to the center. And that is what was done. And including even establishing quality assurance, that is taking over some of the roles of the ministry, some of the roles of training. That is not its work. TSC business is purely HR, is a HR institution. And if that understanding is recasted so that it is known, it is HR driven, activities should be devolved, services should be devolved to the counties, that is majorly HR, and you're able to dispense of discipline cases of teachers very fast, within, if it is you do it at the counties. You're able to expedite appointment of head teachers and those in administrative positions very fast if you do it at the counties. I still don't agree that head teachers can be delocalized. No, still within the ethno-cultural local context, you still create head teachers for those communities because they are part of that community and they ought to spearhead development of education in those communities. So still, they can be appointed in an expeditious and efficient and consultative manner. Things to do with promotion of teachers based on the quota that is given to them, that can be done by the HR at that level. And you can, and that is how to motivate the teaching force. When administrative actions that relates to HR aspects that affects their profession are expedited, then teachers will be very productive. But when it is centralized, it is confused, it is disorganized, you end up having a demotivated teaching service.
Can TSC have a different name and a different suit to be that body that people would trust and have faith in once again?
No, you really don't need to change the name. You simply change the architecture that conforms to the best practices of teacher management and a body that attracts the best and retain the best. To attract the best, you must be competitive and inspiring. To retain, you must continue sustaining the motivation and productivity of that particular worker. But when you centralize these services so that then you leave schools and you leave teachers in a lot of confusion at the grassroots, then it's a wrong thing. I think where TSC failed was to centralize services instead of decentralizing more services. In fact, there needs to be a thinner human resource at the headquarters and more at the counties, because that is where teachers are. And it's a very simple thing. Recast TSC to be purely a HR entity that deals with HR work. Because the main job of TSC is purely HR.
Thank you.
And if you improve the quality of HR services at the lower level, then you improve the professional capacity of teachers. It is very easy. It can be done. You don't need 1 year. You need a short time, and you have the things done right. But we need the goodwill, we need the understanding, and we need the leadership to do that.
When you look at that headline, Mike, and you have a student, or you have a young Kenyan somewhere, or you have a student who is in a teacher's college right now, does that really make that person to think of changing a career, or to make TSC or teaching as one of those jobs that people probably will not want in future?
I was with a gentleman yesterday called Brian. He graduated in 2014. In 2018, he had not gotten a job. He went back to college and he decided to do IT. And then now he said, I don't want to do teaching anymore, because if I have to wait to be employed for 10 years, do I really want to do this? These people are making teaching profession not a place you want to go to. And especially when you know that you'll be frustrated for many, many years before you get a job. Teaching of fraternity in this country, if you come out of college, either private schools are looking for you or government schools are looking for you very, very easily, and they'll get employed very, very quickly. The question is, why do we want to employ, or why do we want to train, and then these people have used a lot of money for their training, and then they wait for 10, 15 years before they get employed. You know, this is a systemic problem, not just with teaching fraternity, but when you want to start bribing to get a job, when you want to start bribing to get promotion, what are you going to teach your teachers? You'll tell them that, you know, in this world, there's nothing free. You'll have to bribe your way. And that is the culture we're teaching this country. When you are looking for to become a police officer and you have to bribe 300,000, you know what that means? That means already the first day you start employment, you have a debt of 300,000 that you have to pay. You know what is in your head? If I bribe to get this job, everybody that I'm going to meet out there will have to bribe me, or I'll have to get bribe from them. If you bribe in the military and then you go there 400,000, as they say, or 300,000, and this guy knows very well that I've bribed for 300,000, immediately gets into that position, is thinking, how do I recoup back my money? The politicians are doing it. The police is doing it. The military seem to be doing it. And now you have teaching fraternity doing it. The people that are supposed to, just mold our children to be good citizens, to be men and women of integrity, of hard work, to have a promising future, and to change the culture of corruption into decongestion of corruption in this country, to look at humanity as it is. And now when you subject that individual to a loan already, because a bribe, and now he has to borrow from their circle to be able to repay the loan. You know, I was actually talking about police. There's a gentleman I met. It's a very, very funny thing. They belong to the to the police circle, and they say in the police circles, I cannot authenticate this. He said, if you want a job in the police, your son wants a job in the police circle is ready to give you a loan to go and bribe for your son to get a job within the police, because then they'll join the police circle and they will be able to pay that money. You see how this is just convoluted, and it's wrong in nature. We cannot subject the teachers who are preparing our next leaders in this country to be subjected to this ridicule, to this kind of corruption, that they must pay for every services, even though it is free, that they must pay for it. This is uncalled for. This needs to be reprimanded. It needs to be rolled so that the teachers can have the dignity they need. Teachers are some of the people who really love their job. Sossion was there, and I can tell you that when you meet teachers who love it, they love it whether they get nothing out of it. He wants a good promotion because he's worked hard, and then he has to pay for it. I mean, what sort of society are we getting into? TSC must be able to know that their role is to motivate teachers by paying them well, motivate teachers, by making sure that they are promoted at the right time, motivate teachers, by making sure that they have enough teachers within the schools that are lacking teachers. For example, if you need to have 10 teachers in one school and you're only having 2, you're not motivating these teachers. They're not going to work hard. In fact, they will hate TSC for compelling them to do the work that 10 people, 2 people, that 10 people are supposed to do. TSC is supposed to devolve this, the HR services, so that they don't have to come to Nairobi. They can deal with the people they know. When they come to Nairobi here, I've lived in Upper Hill and I'm next to TSC for many, many years. When you wake up at 6 o'clock, there are many cases when I'm running on that hill. You wake up at 5 o'clock. You find people lining up, teachers from up country with bags lining up there because they want to see somebody. They don't know. Most cases they go there and they're told, oh, the individual you're supposed to see is not here. They have to go back to Wajir. They have to go back to Moranga, wherever it is, to come back again. And at that time, their issues have not been solved. Why can't we help teachers resolve their issues and their matters within the county level? And what is absolutely necessary should be brought to Nairobi. But issues of payroll, it is the people on the ground who know these people, whether they go to work. They're the ones who are supposed to do a better job. Okay. And that means HR needs to be devolved.
If I don't know whether I should ask this question, but Okay, let that pass. But then the question I want to ask you, Sossion, what should be the government doing to correct all the ills that we are discussing today, and perhaps to jumpstart the TSC that people should be proud of? I'm talking about the national government. When we talk about the national government, there are so many bodies around the national government.
It's actually national government, you know.
Right.
The constitutional commissions are vested in the office of the deputy president. That means all these constitutional commissions have got administrative leadership from the central government. There has to be deliberate government decisions to reduce surgery on Teacher Service Commission and repackage it to meet the constitutional expectations and the aspirations of the teachers and the people of Kenya. That needs to be done. It is not a body that exists outside the armpits of government. It exists within the armpits of government. And there must be directional leadership from the national government on what TSC should be able to do. We've seen the judiciary. They've worked on their programs of devolving services, ensuring that there is expeditious delivery of justice, and you can count the milestones of what the judiciary has done. And it's still an institution, an entity within the governance of this country. So Teacher Service Commission operates within the entity of the executive arm, because the services are within the executive operations of the arm of government. So there has to be that directional leadership. And if need be, because we are a country of public participation under Article 10, to me, I would recommend, can we as a country
can we take a break?
Have a national conversation
Let's take a break.
on the future of the teaching service and TSC, a national conference.
Let's take a break.
And we can have
talk about
recommendations.
Social, I have the constitution here. We can open it. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with more. This is interesting. So let's just finish this discussion. Very good. Now, I know that's one of the professions that is considered to be the ideal when you talk about professions under the sun. That is one of them. So a quick one, Mike. No, sorry, it was Sossion. You are saying something before we continue. But then, as your closing remarks, we need you saying what the government should do, the national government, and Article 10 of the Constitution. Go ahead.
Yeah, Article 10, national values and principles of governance. And I think generally what TSC has been accused of is gross violation. It constitutes gross violation of Article 10, because when you look at Article 10, 2C, talks about good governance, integrity, transparency, and accountability. It includes public participation, the participation of the citizens. When all these institutions were created, even under Chapter 15, they are supposed to conform strictly to the provisions of the Constitution. But you cannot take them away from the public. Decisions are taken with exclusion of the public. That is wrong. It's unconstitutional. Decisions are personalized. Services that have been existing at the grassroots for a long time are recalled and centralized. That's an antithesis, unconstitutional. So it is, TSC has been doing the opposite of what Judicial Service Commission is doing. Judicial Service Commission is trying to devolve services and expedite the delivery of justice. But what TSC has done is to centralize services, recall some of the devolved services, and diminish its role as HR, and try to engage in other roles of the ministries and other agencies, which is wrong. So it has too much that it cannot do, and therefore it ends up violating the provisions of the Constitution. And for me, I've recommended we need a new conversation. And when I talk of a national conference, it's the highest level of public participation. And the people who attend a national conference, say of the teaching services, will be the teacher trainers in the teacher training colleges, will be the universities that train teachers, will be the experts, and will be the who is who in the teaching profession, up to even and including UNESCO and government, so that then we can have a robust conversation, and we have resolutions and a framework of action on how to recast the architecture and operation of Teacher Service Commission.
Thank you.
And to me, TSC should revert to its HR role purely. Matters to do with training and quality assurance is the business of other entities. And then all these services should be devolved to the grassroots.
Very good. Let's give Mike 1 minute to finalize on this
up to even including pension. That your pension file can be processed expeditiously, and you are able to access your pension when a teacher retires within a short time. The short of it is, what is it that we can do to dignify teaching and make teaching in this country the first profession that attracts the best and retain the best and gives the value in terms of quality teaching.
Mike Atumalizie, to turn around everything and give it a new face once and for all, once again, if possible.
Well, one of the things I want to say is I know TSC is looking for the CEO because whoever they have now is not substantive and it is acting. I know a number of people have applied for this position, and I think the applications and the names are with the president. I pray that the president will make an appointment as soon as he can, so that this place is not doesn't continue having somebody who's not substantive and is not able to make decisions as fast as they can be made. I pray that this individual will not be part of the cartel that has been in the TSC. This lady that is acting, in my view, is just part of the cartel that has been in TSC. And if we get somebody fresh from outside that will look at this matter in a manner likely to change the way the operationalization of TSC is taking place, and also bring it closer to the people and bring sanity in terms of employment, bring sanity in terms of getting real data and responding to those data. Because collecting the data and responding to the data are two different things. I think that would be very, very important. And I pray that it will also be an individual that will not be like many other people that say very, very nice things as we sit here. And then once they get into those positions, then, power comes and then it corrupts. And it absolutely corrupts. And I wish Mr. Sossion the best. I know he's one of the applicants in the position of CEO. I know Dr. Juan. I know. This is in public. It's in public domain. It's not a secret. I know Dr. Juan is part of it. I wish him well in this. But let's pray that we get some changes that will be benefiting the teachers in this country. And I think that will be very, very important because the teachers are suffering and we cannot continue watching them suffering without talking about it.
Thank you, gentlemen. We have to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for joining us. Wilson Sossion, veteran unionist and educator. Asante sana for joining us. And Michael Ogwanda, he's an analyst. He wears many hats. Thank you so much. I didn't know you're so passionate about education like this. We've always been talking about politics.
Not education, teaching. He has
a lot of interesting. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's take a break. And we come back. Regina Manyari is going to be taking issue with women's leadership and inclusive growth. An interesting discussion there. Stay with us. I'm Victor Oloo.